Welcome to Trading the Close on this Tuesday. I'm Toni Valliere with Verified Investing. Optimism over the possibility of lower interest rates fades after the Fed's minutes are released, and we are just minutes away from learning Nvidia's earnings report, which will happen shortly after the market closes. Let's take a look at where things stand right now, just minutes before the closing bell. We are seeing a lot of red across the board here. The S&P down more than 7 points, the Dow down more than 59 points, and NASDAQ down as well, more than 88 points. Let's bring in Chief Market Strategist Gareth Soloway with a recap of the day. So many investors, we started the day optimistic that the Feds were done raising rates, but obviously we didn't exactly get that message. Instead, they told us that they need to stay restrictive.
Right, yeah. So today was one of those days where the Fed kind of said, oh, well, we're going to rely on the data. So if the data comes in hot, meaning inflationary, we might raise interest rates. And again, if it comes in not, then we won't. And I honestly think it was kind of a nothing burger in that, you know, if we look at the S&P 500 here, and this is the intraday chart, like, if you look at it, right, this was that period right here. You barely a downtick and then kind of right back to sideways chop as we go into the end of the day. And I think really the Nvidia earnings are the big thing here because, again, you know, you look at Apple. Apple's a $3 trillion company. People say, oh, that's the biggest one for earnings. I disagree. I think the hype around AI makes Nvidia, which is just about a $1 trillion or a little over $1 trillion company, that makes it the most, you know, impressive and potentially the most volatile for the stock market. So here we are coming into those earnings. And I just want to show the S&P. It's really interesting to me to see how the S&P is at a pivotal level coming into like the biggest earnings announcement, right? So if we look here, and I showed this on the game plan this morning, look at the rally in the S&P straight up, but where does it stop? Going right into Nvidia earnings, right into this area here. So it really does set up for a huge number to come out after hours, either good or bad. And then the markets will either have one final move up, in my opinion, or they'll sell off if the earnings aren't up to snuff. And by the way, the earnings are going to beat, right? That's not in question. I want everyone to understand that. Okay. It's about the guidance. Are they seeing any sort of margin contraction because other players are starting to develop chips for AI? What about China, where they're not allowed to sell their chips? So that's what the market's going to look for. But I do expect the headline number to be a blockbuster number.
We saw stocks dip even before the Fed minutes were released. So talk about the factors that you think played a role in that.
Yeah, so I think overall, right, we did see the markets down today across the board, like you mentioned, about 0.6% on the NASDAQ, about 0.2% on the S&P. Really minor in respect to the rally. So I think for the most part, it's, again, you know, there's a lot of investors out there that have had huge gains in a very short amount of time. And they kind of see this as, you know, Nvidia is a wild card. Which way does the market go? The market could be down 2% tomorrow if it's bad earnings, or up a little bit more. So a lot of people just say, you know what, let me just take a little bit of my foot off the pedal on the gas, take some profits. And I think that's why you saw a little bit of a pullback today in the stock market. So very minor. I want to point this out too. Look at the volume. And the markets are basically, you know, 3 minutes from a close now. 41.5 million shares on the SPY. That is almost the lightest volume of the year. Part of that is the holiday coming up, right? We know the markets are closed Thursday for Thanksgiving. And then part of it is just like, don't do anything. Let's be like, everyone's just watching this earnings announcement after hours today.
Let's talk about some of the market movers that you've been watching today. I know they include Lowe's, American Eagle, Dick's Sporting Goods. Not all positive moves, though, are in the right direction for each of them.
Yeah, so I think like, so number one, we have Nvidia here, and just quickly touching on this one going into earnings, huge 26% move, small down day today, but again, all about which way it goes. I do want to show one thing on this chart that I think is fantastic in terms of where it could go. So if earnings are good, the question is how high could it rally here? And I do think that there is potential upside to about the 426 level. So 426 for me is a very, very keen level. Interestingly enough, on any sort of sell-off, 470, so excuse me, 526, I apologize. 526 would be your upside, which is about $26 to the upside. It's right at 499 and change here, about 470 to the downside. So it's very interesting to see how the chart is setting up where if it beats, you got about $25, $30 upside. If it misses, $25 to $30 to the downside. Now, in terms of trades today, Dick's Sporting Goods, I think this is really interesting. Dick's opened up sizably on earnings, and it fell all the way back down with just a small gain today. We know Best Buy, I think, also reported earnings this morning as well, and that stock was down, and it kind of found its way back to the flat line here. So you had one stock opening up, and it kind of fell back, one stock opening down, going back up, and then Lowe's, we know Lowe's was down pre-market as well, and that stock still remains down. But again, you look at this, and it's like, okay, well, just a few weeks ago it was at 180, then it rallied to 200 and change, and now it's back to 198. And again, these moves now are just becoming almost, weirdly enough, inconsequential to the earnings after the bell today and to what the market is looking at towards the Fed and some of these other factors.
Exactly. Let's go back to Nvidia. We are still waiting for Nvidia's earnings reports. We don't know exactly what time that is going to happen, but I know in the game plan this morning, you did mention no matter which direction it heads, it will have a big impact on the market. Explain that.
Yeah, so it's more that at this stage you have Nvidia that is looked at. I mean, think about all the news lately. Sam Altman getting fired from AI, C3 AI, then getting picked up by Microsoft. Microsoft's developing their own chips, right? Everything in the markets right now is so focused on AI that it makes Nvidia and their AI chips like center screen. Like that's going to be what people are going to queue off of for how the overall sentiment is. And it's all, markets are so much about sentiment, right? It's earnings can mean something, but honestly, sentiment is more important. Greatest example of that would be Apple, right? So if we look at Apple, Apple actually reported quarterly year-over-year revenue declines, right? But then it rallies 15 to 16% straight up. I mean, like incredible move to the upside, even though their earnings, it was actually down initially on earnings. And so you can see that, normally you see, oh, they're not doing so well, the stock should fall. Nope, the sentiment in the market was more important here, and it rallied the stock up. And so this is where Nvidia comes in. It's all about sentiment. If they blow out the numbers, if they give great guidance, it's going to keep the cheer and the holiday spirit alive, and this market will go higher.
And they're waiting until the market closes to release this. There's got to be a tactic, a reason behind that.
Yeah, so earnings in general, either before the open or afterwards. And again, I think that's to keep the volatility down. Yes, people can trade after hours, but more that's traders and institutions, not so much the retail crowd. And I think it keeps the panic down and vice versa, the kind of euphoria. So if they, for instance, miss, you don't want small investors panicking when they see the after hours action. Instead, they'd rather wait. Let's hear the conference call. Let's hear level heads prevail, and then we open tomorrow. And I think that's why they do these things pre-market and after hours.
Makes sense. I know you will, of course, be watching this tomorrow as well. What else will you be focused on? Yeah,
so tomorrow we do have a little economic news, but I think really this number is going to be the key. And I'm going to bring it up now just in case it gets released in the after hours here while we're still doing this. Looks like it popped. Look at this, getting a little bit of a pop right as the market closes. Again, I don't think earnings are out yet, so I don't think that's an issue yet. You'd see a much bigger reaction, but could be a little short covering going into this number. And I think we said, I looked it up, and I think it was around 420 is when earnings are supposed to be released. Now, in terms of tomorrow, I want to see what do interest rates do, right? We had some speak from the Fed today, but it was kind of a non-event. Let's see if that changes overnight. And then also let's watch the dollar. And then really, again, this one right here, like, I mean, I don't mean to harp on it, but it's now the biggest thing by far. And then once this is over, it's time to go have Thanksgiving dinner, basically.
Exactly.
The markets will be open tomorrow, then they're closed Thursday, and then they're half day on Friday, so it's the holidays.
Closing at 1 p.m. Friday, right?
Correct.
All right, Gareth, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And you can watch Gareth navigate the charts in real time every weekday morning at 9 with the game plan. We also want to let you know about a new course that we are offering, the Verified Real Estate Wealth System, hosted by real estate developer Greg Dickerson. He's an expert on real estate and entrepreneurship and has bought and sold over $250 million in real estate. And now he's teaching you how to master the skill set of real estate. And you can get that now on verifiedinvesting.com. Well, that does it for Trading the Close on this Tuesday. I'm Toni Valliere. Have a great day.
One of the things my dad taught me was hard work and discipline. He would teach me how to figure out a way to make the money that I needed for whatever I wanted in my life. I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I had a epiphany. Life is too short. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna waste another minute. I decided I'm gonna carve my own path. That's why my life changed. That's why I got into real estate. But what fills me more than anything else is helping other people figure out why they were put on this planet. That's why I teach. That's why I coach, because nothing excites me more than seeing other people achieve their dreams, other people carve their own paths. That was the freedom that I felt when I was able to leave that job and I was able to do whatever I wanted, anytime I wanted. Anybody can do it. Anybody can go out and do deals, anybody can make money, anybody can build companies. Once you're dialed in and you're settled in and you learn how to become that leader, delegator, motivator, which is a lot of what I teach in that course, you can live a great lifestyle while building great businesses and doing a lot and investing and doing other things. When you go through a course like this, that gives you the power and the confidence and the freedom to go out there and take action and put that stuff into action. So for me, the one idea is all it takes to completely change the entire trajectory of your life.